Hello, Dr. Tabor Smith here with the Spinal Hygiene Movement, and today we're going to be reviewing a research article titled Degenerative Changes Following Spinal Fixation in a Small Animal Model. This is the article here, and I will do my best. If this is on a platform that allows comments below, I will post a PDF link, a downloadable link below. If it is not, if you're watching this just as a video file, you can always subscribe to our private Facebook page titled Spinal Hygiene Doctors Club. So if you just search on Facebook, Spinal Hygiene Doctors Club, click to join. If you are a chiropractor or a healthcare practitioner, then I will add you to our group as all of our resources are always posted in that private group. So let's dive into today's article review. The objective of this study was to evaluate changes of the lumbar vertebral column following fixation. Now, the design, they used a established small animal rat model of spinal fixation or hypomobility, three contiguous lumbar segments, L4, L5, and L6, which I didn't realize that rats have 6 lumbar vertebrae, but I guess they do. Were fixated with specifically engineered vertebral fixation device, which I did post the images of that below if you're watching this from video and not just listening on audio. Spinal segments of control rats were compared with those of animals with 1, 4, or 8 weeks of fixation. So they would fixate the lumbar vertebrae of these rats for 1 week and then analyze for 4 weeks and analyze, and then 8 weeks of fixation and analyze. Subgroups of these fixation animals subsequently had the fixation device removed for 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks to evaluate the effects of attempting to reestablish normal forces to the vertebral segments following hypomobility. So let me kind of explain that. They would apply these fixation devices, and you can see if you're looking at the images there, they would screw the metal into the vertebrae, and then the first initial piece of metal had an extension coming up and the bar that goes across that would then fixate each segment together with little bolts that they would fixate, so that those 3 segments, 3 to 4 segments, I guess 3, were all fixated together and were not able to move independently. Okay. Now they would leave that fixation there on the rat if they had different groups, one group for 1 week, then take it off, and they would analyze the effects that it made, and then 4 weeks, take it off, analyze the effects, 8 weeks, take it off, analyze the effects. Now they went a step further in their subgroups, and they would analyze the effects of the fixation device when it was removed for up to 1 week, and they looked and see if it improved. 2 weeks removed, 4 weeks removed, 8 weeks, or even 12 weeks. So if the rat had had the fixation device removed for 12 weeks, now they're going to analyze and see if the degeneration that the device had caused, whether it had improved or not when they took the device off. I hope that makes sense to everybody. But very interesting model and very interesting experiment that they did here. They had 87 animals total, 23 were control group, 64 were fixation animals, and they were used in this study. The main outcome measures, so this is what they were measuring. Outcome measures were degenerative changes of vertebral bodies. So they were looking at the vertebral bodies to see if there were any degenerative changes, the intervertebral discs to see if there were any degenerative changes there, and the Z joints, the zygapophyseal joints. And they would look at the Z joints to see if it had osteophyte formation or any articular surface degeneration. Okay. Changes found in vertebral segments that were fixed or hypomobile were then compared with changes in adjacent non-fixated vertebral segments, and changes among fixation animals were compared with non-fixed groups. All right, so that's what they did, looking for degeneration in all of those joints, and then comparing the fixed segments to the non-fixed segments in the same animal, and then also comparing the non-fixed segments and changes among the fixation animals compared to non-fixed controls. Okay, so comparing the segments inside the animal, also comparing the segments to total control groups. Okay, here were the main results of this study. Okay, number one, and you have to recognize that the time that they were looking at this. Very few degenerative changes were identified in the vertebral bodies and the intervertebral discs. Those are large joints compared to the Z joints, right? And I personally believe that the reason they didn't find very much degenerative changes in the actual vertebral bodies or discs was because the longest they left the fixation on the animal was 4 weeks, or actually may have been 8 weeks, but 4 to 8 weeks. So 2 months, right? And we know, you and I both know that some people after a car accident or slips, falls, or if they are sedentary, like say they sit at a desk for 8 hours a day and they don't exercise, a lot of people's spines are fixated for months and months and months, or even years, causing degeneration of their vertebral bodies and the vertebral discs. So I think if it's just my opinion, but if they would have left them on longer, they may have seen more degenerative changes in the vertebral bodies and the vertebral discs. But let's look at the Z joints because this was significant. Z joint changes were significant both for osteophyte formation, so bone spurs, and the articular surface degeneration. Fixed segments had more degenerative changes than non-fixed segments. So we know fixed segments cause degeneration, and this is of course in the Z joint, in the facet joint, but still, the facet joint degenerative changes can be very painful for a patient. We know that. Um, so fixed segments had more degeneration changes than non-fixed segments for all Z joint parameters, all parameters. And get this, osteophyte formation and articular surface degeneration were directly dependent on duration of fixation. Okay, so the amount of degeneration was directly dependent on the time of fixation. That's why I think what I said before, that if they would have looked and left the fixation on mechanism on longer than just a month or 2 months, that they would have seen degenerative changes in the vertebral bodies and in the intervertebral discs as well, because they're saying that the degenerative changes in the facet joints or the Z joints were directly dependent on the duration of fixation. So the longer it was fixated, the worse the degenerative changes they noticed in that joint. Okay, and then conclusions. These findings indicate that fixation or hypomobility, okay, so they did maybe move just a little bit. And we know that a lot of patients come in our office with hypomobility, results in time-dependent degenerative changes of the Z joints. Now, even just taking that, if that's all we can say based on this study, that hypomobility results in time-dependent degenerative changes of the Z joints, we want to prevent that for our patients. This, to me, it just backs up the importance of wellness care and maintenance care for patients, for families, for people to be under chiropractic care, to make sure that that hypomobility, those fixations are corrected with the chiropractic adjustment, and not even factoring in other factors of the subluxation like spinal alignment and all of those things, just factoring in movement. The longer that spine is fixated and not moving properly, the more chances our patients have for degenerative changes in specifically Z joints, right? Okay, that is all I got for you today. I hope that all of you are having a great one. Stay tuned. We're going to be reviewing more articles in the future. Check us out, our products at spinalhygieneproducts.com. And if you want to learn more about spinal hygiene and get your certification through Life University's postgraduate education department, check out spinalhygienist.com. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.